Hello everyone, welcome back to another show here on Play on GAA with me, Seamus Brady, your host, and for this I am joined by Aaron Prendergast, the man behind GAA Fan TV. In this video, we are going to be giving a full review of the year of 2022 in Gaelic games. In the GAA, it is the 31st of December 2022. The year is pretty much done, and this is the end of year awards. First of all, Aaron, how did you find the year? Another great year in the GAA 2022. I mean, goals, great moments, and controversy. It had it all.
Yeah, it was brilliant. It was a great year of the GA, and obviously having fans back, I think, was the big thing this year, because obviously 2021 was still kind of a little bit of limbo in terms of COVID and everything else. So, although there were some fans back in 2021, I mean, 2022 we got to see fully packed stadiums, and I think it isn't a coincidence, in my opinion, that we'd so many late winners and so much like late drama. I think fans really had a big part to play in it, but. Yeah, no, it was a very, very good year in terms of the GA. I mean, I don't know if I'd put it above 2021. I think 2021 had like a lot of like surprises, like at underage level, the ladies football championship. But at the same time, 2022 gave us some very, very good games. I mean, like the Armagh Galway game, Clare Roscommon was a cracking game. Dublin Kerry, obviously in the semi-finals. Even Kerry Galway, like, was fairly entertaining and high scoring enough, and same at hurling as well. We had some absolute cracking games there. So no, it was a very, very good year, and yeah, very excited to look ahead now to 2023 as well.
Yeah, well, it's the first time that we've really done this now on Play on G, an end of year awards type thing. We've a lot of awards to give out. The first one that we're going to go with, Aaron, is the football goal of the year. Now, there were some amazing goals now across the championship and across the league, across the club championship, some breathtaking goals. What is the first one that really jumps to your head as a contender here?
Yeah, I mean, the David Clifford one versus Mayo was unbelievable. I mean, he absolutely, like, considering how him and Padraig O'Hara have been going back and forth sort of in the game. And obviously, I think everyone's seen the clip of O'Hara very much getting in his face and kind of, dishing out some variables and all the rest between the two. And then Clifford just completely rinsed them inside and out. And the crazy thing is, it didn't even look like Clifford was going at full strength or full pelt. It looked like, and let's not forget, he was carrying an injury, I think. Actually, no, wait, sorry, that was the championship game, so he was actually all right for this one, I think. But he was still, like, he wasn't even at his brilliant best during that goal, I'd say. Like, I've seen him score better goals, and he's probably scored better goals this year. But just considering what happened with O'Hara leading up to that, and the way he just completely tore him inside and out, I think he went past another Mayo player as well before putting it in the net. Like, that was an unbelievable goal. I think Shane Walsh's goal versus Roscommon as well was really, really good. Went around a few players, a really good finish. And the significance of that goal as well, because I remember the game was still kind of level at that point, and, like, Galway had been beaten a couple of times by Roscommon already that year. So kind of a big significance. Costello's goal versus Kerry, I thought was really good as well. Came at a really big time. Tough finish as well. Like, he couldn't have put any more in that corner. Yeah, if I had to choose one, I'd maybe go with Shane Walsh's one, I think, against Roscommon.
That's an interesting show. I think I think Costello's goal against Kerry, I think that gets underrated. He put it in the bottom corner from outside the penalty box. Like, that was an unbelievably hard finish. Clifford's one against Mayo was outstanding. The way, obviously, you mentioned there, like, he ran, pretty much 3/4 pace. Just showed how strong he was, held off Padraig O'Hara literally for the entire run, and then just puts it into the back of the net at his leisure almost. Another one that I'd like to throw into the mix, obviously, Rory Grugan's goal against Donegal in the All-Ireland qualifiers. Thing for Armagh, that was like, whoa, like they've flown out the blocks here. Like, I mean, Grugan, wasn't it? They caught it from the throw in, belted it into Grugan. He's out in front, catches and sticks it into the net. What was it, 13 seconds or something? Like, unbelievable start to the game. Another one I'd love to throw up is Kieran Martin's goal against Cavan in the Tailteann Cup final. I think that was vitally important as well, because it set them on their way. That was a goal which really kind of, Westmeath are going to do it here. Kieran Martin's come in after all the injuries that he's had. He comes back on at a crucial stage and sticks the ball into the back of the net and really sets Westmeath up for victory. For another one, Lara Curran, that goal in Kildare against Wexford in the Leinster Intermediate Ladies Gaelic Football Final, incredible finish there. And then my personal favourite for a finish. I mean, I'm talking for a finish, Diarmuid Murtagh's goal against Galway in the league final. What a finish that was. I mean, for a guy who had came off, the bench, hadn't really been getting a run around, what a finish that was. Any of them up for consideration?
Yeah, I think they're all in the mix as well. I think it was a Pora Cassidy maybe as well for Derry versus Clare. There was a few goals in that game that were really good. I can't think of who got them now all off the top of my head. I remember Conor Glass got himself a lovely goal, but now that you're saying it as well, like Diarmuid Murtagh's goal versus Galway, like just thinking about that now, like that was a cracking finish. So yeah, I think when you're thinking of quality goals, I suppose Diarmuid Murtagh's probably up there, and then maybe if you're looking at sort of the significance of a goal, you could look at Costello's versus Kerry, or even Walsh's versus Roscommon as well. So yeah, definitely Diarmuid Murtagh's I think is definitely in the conversation. Maybe in terms of skill level, maybe you'd put that as number one.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a good shout. I mean, Connor Casey's is one that I really like. Gowna, Craig Diaz as well. For me, Kilmacud Crokes against Nace, that was a belter of a finish. Got a couple of comments here. Not so sure they're related to, but Johnny Cooper is a legend, 100%. Big loss. Yeah, what a 7 for Dublin. Big loss in the Dublin defence. No doubt about that. And obviously, if you want to see a full preview of the Dublin football season, I was on Aaron's podcast there earlier this morning, giving a full preview of the Dublin Football Championship season. Sorry, the Dublin season 4 next year. I mean, if you haven't checked that out, do check it out. Much appreciated. So goal-wise, I am leaning towards Diarmuid Murtagh. I just think for just the finish, it was just unbelievable. Like, what a goal. And for a guy who'd been coming off the bench, I just think it was an absolutely electric finish. I find it hard to overlook that one. I really, really do. I mean, the David Clifford one definitely is in consideration. But I'm happy to go Diarmuid Murtagh on that one. Yeah,
no, I think I'd agree as well. Diarmuid Murtagh, Conor Casey, as you said, that was another really, really good show. And yeah, Craig Diaz probably getting in the conversation as well. Like there's so many goals that have happened across all club championships. Like there's probably a goal in there that we haven't seen. Like I remember there was one in the Cork championship. I can't remember what game it was or who it was who scored it, unfortunately. But maybe Matthew might enlighten us. But I think it was Finbars against Nemo Rangers. I remember seeing a quality goal in that game. I think it might have been Luke Connolly actually, maybe in the semi-finals. But you see some cracking goals. But I think Diarmuid Murtagh's would be number one.
Yeah. Okay. So GAA Goal of the Year here in Play on GAA's End of Year Awards. The Gaelic Football Goal of the Year for 2022 is Diarmuid Murtagh's goal in the Division 2 League Final against Galway. Now moving to the Hurling Goal of the Year. Again, there were some crucial goals here, clutch moments. What one stands out to you first?
Yeah, I think the Harry Ruddle goal. Like I think it has to be undisputed. I think it has to be number one because first of all, the quality of it. Like he picks up the ball in his own half, runs the length of the field. He's only got one option there. Like he has to go for goal. Like the time is, we've played the full amount of minutes of added on time. Even if he puts it over the bar, like Ballyhale have won the All Ireland. Considering Ballygunner had never won an All Ireland up until that point, to have the composure and like the mental strength to actually go for goal there, knowing what's on the line, and he couldn't have placed it any better as well. Like I think it's one of the moments of the year as well, as regardless of one of the goals of the year. Like I think it was an extraordinary technique. I think other ones as well, like TJ Reid's in the semi-finals versus St. Martin's, like way out the field as well. Like he'd no right to go for goal really from there. Like like that was a cracking goal, and that's probably another one as well that you could argue. Again, it was a winning goal. He had to go for it. There was so many players like in and around sort of the box area and obviously around the square to sort of block the slitter from going in. So, and then Hegarty's goal I think for Limerick as well in the All Ireland final was a cracking one. So, yeah, I think Harry Ruddle would be for me. I just think the significance of it, the skill of it as well, like how far he ran with the ball. I don't think you can. It just doesn't get any better than that, I don't think.
Yeah, I think the Hegarty goal was one where I was like, how good is this guy? Like that goal, like literally you didn't even see the ball. You just saw the net bulge. I was like, what? Yeah. This fella like is ridiculous. He's so good. His goal against Clare as well was one where it was magic. The way he,
Mhm.
when he's running at that pace, like, and he's able to scoop the ball over a Clare defender, take it down and bury it into the net. Like, I don't think people appreciate just how hard that is to do. When you're going at that pace, to see the defender coming and to scoop it over him and catch it and score. Like, that's outrageously good. Yeah, I think another good shout for goal of the year, I think, is that Hegarty one. Mikey Kiley as well in the UL against IT Carlow. That was an absolutely cracking goal. Adam Screeney as well, Cork against Offaly. Of course, we are getting some of these nominations from GAA Statsman. Big shout out to him. I mean, we were talking off air there, Aaron, how many posts does this guy make? So do follow him if you're not. Some great nominations there as well. I really like the Mikey Kiley goal as well. I think that has to be right up there too.
Yeah, and another one I just thought of as well, I think it was Paddy McCormick maybe in the All-Ireland Minor hurling final between Tipperary Offaly. Literally a goal that won. Again, another late winner.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah, and like maybe it was more of just, I think it was Paddy Phelan who like just floated the ball in, and then McCormick just sort of tapped it in with the hurl. Like maybe it was a bit more of a sort of a last gasp sort of snatched goal rather than maybe like pure skill or anything like that. But even at that, to still get the connection on the ball in the air, like that's still some skill in itself. So couldn't look past that. Yeah, the Mikey Kiley goal as well. That was a cracking goal. But for me, I just can't look past the Harry Ruddle goal. Like I think just to be so far out as well and put that in, like it was just unbelievable stuff, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think I want to give a shout out to the Brian Kincannon goal against Limerick. I think the way he caught that turn and buried it, I think that was an outrageously good finish. But yeah, I'm happy to go with Harry Ruddle. I think the way he just, with so much on the line, and I think that's the thing that you have to take into account here. The Hegarty goal, I think, in terms of the finish and in terms of like in terms of the skill, I think you could argue Hegarty's is right up there with Harry Ruddle's. But in terms of the stakes, Hegarty's goal was right at the start of the All Ireland final. It got Limerick off to a flyer. But Harry Ruddle's goal, when everything is on the line, like Ballygunner are slipping quickly towards defeat in this final, and once again they're going to let an All Ireland Club Championship slip between their fingers. And then Harry Ruddle steps up and buries it into the back of the net from such a distance out with so many Ballyhale lads around him. Bearing in mind he's a substitute, he didn't start the game. He's not like one of Ballygunner's key players. Massive respect. So yeah, I'm happy to go with that one. Harry Ruddle's goal for Ballygunner in the All-Ireland Club final against Ballyhale Shamrocks is our goal of the year. Now moving on to Breakout Star of the year. And this is just across all codes. This is across ladies Gaelic football, camogie and hurling. Anyone who this year, and they don't necessarily have to be under 21, they don't have to be a young player, anyone who wasn't a big player last year who's broke onto the scene this year, who would jump out at you as being just that?
Yeah, I think from a hurling perspective, Mikey Butler definitely for Kilkenny. I know he has played in the past, but I think given the season that he had, like he was undoubtedly he was exceptional. He was definitely the best cornerback in the country last year. Anyway, make no shadow of a doubt. I mean, like in general, his performances have been exceptional. You think of some of the work he done on Tony Kelly. I think it was in the game versus Clare, obviously in the lead up to it. So yeah, Mikey Butler definitely. I think from a hurling perspective, from football, it's definitely a tough one. All right, I think Lee Gannon would be a great show from a Dublin perspective. Like it was his first season playing senior intercounty football. And it was a difficult season for him as well because the league obviously didn't really go well, and obviously a lot of people sort of singling out Dublin's defence, and I don't really think it was anything really necessarily ever got to do with him. I think the system that Dublin were playing with last year, it was very, very open, and it was tough for him to sort of come into a Dublin side that was struggling as opposed to a lot of other players who would come into a Dublin team, and be sort of usually on the front foot. So yeah, I think Lee Gannon maybe from a football and perspective. Killian McDade, although he has been there in the past as well, was excellent for Galway in midfield. Looking at it, who else could I think of? I mean, although Rory Canavan hasn't necessarily played for Tyrone seniors yet, I mean, he was so good for the under-20s.
Talk about announcing yourself, yeah. Like that final, he was ridiculous.
As well. He was unbelievable,
Yeah. What about on the camogie? Has there been any See, I feel like it's difficult because Kilkenny won with a team that, like, Miriam Walsh and players like that are still the key players. Whereas Dublin have had to do a rebuild. Kerry haven't had any breakout players as well, if you like. I feel like it's more for teams that are in transition that a breakout player will come.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Like ladies football, maybe Sheafra O'Shea.
Sheafra O'Shea has been very good for Kerry.
She was very, very good. Like, and you could pick a handful of Kerry players. Like, it's a very young team, you know. Like, but I think she was very, very good from a Kerry perspective. Like, I remember in the final or in the lead up to the final, like she was in exceptional form, and she was the one that everyone was kind of singling out, sort of leading up to that All-Ireland final. And fair play for Meath for sort of keeping her quiet on the day. Can't really think of anyone off the top of my head from a Camogie perspective. I probably haven't kept up with Camogie as much as I would have liked this year to sort of have a real understanding there. But yeah, any suggestions you might have? Maybe, I'm not sure, but like I think
Sheafra O'Shea is definitely a good, very, very good show. Sheafra O'Shea is a very good show. I think Kerry kind of came good this year. I feel like this year was a really good year for players like Paris McCarthy and stuff that kind of took the load off Louise Murray-Hertig a little bit, because she had been their key player, out and out key player. I do think Mikey Butler is one hell of a shout though. If you're talking breakout star of the year, I think Lee Gannon was brilliant. Jack Glynn obviously won Young Footballer of the Year. He really came to the fore for Galway. I really like Mikey Butler though. I think he was fantastic, and you mentioned the job he did on Tony Kelly was absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, no, it was. Like, I mean, and even in the Leinster Championship as well, like against Galway, I thought he was very, very good that day as well. I think Galway in the Leinster final finished with 17 points, and there had been some question marks over Kilkenny's defence following on from the defeat to Wexford, and obviously being beaten as well by Galway in the round robin. So there had been some question marks over Kilkenny's defence, and you know, when you think of some of the retirements and, you know, the last couple of years, obviously with Joey Holden and whatnot, the fact that he was able to come in there, Mikey Butler, and do as well as he did, I thought it was exceptional. I mean, it was tough for him, obviously, in the final against Limerick, but Limerick are just Limerick. You know, they're next level, one of the best teams possibly of all time. But yeah, like Mikey Butler, exceptional. Like some of the high balls he caught as well in that semi-final versus Clare. His work going forward as well, I think, is underrated. So yeah, I think you can't look past Mikey Butler. But as you said, Jack Glynn, very good season for Galway, and Lee Gannon, very good season for Dublin.
Yeah, I think all of them are definitely good shouts. I think Lorraine Bray from Waterford deserves a shout in the terms of the Camogie. Not necessarily that she, you know, we'd had never heard of her, but this year Waterford were really, really good. And you got like the likes of Niamh Rocket and players like that are finally getting the credit that they deserve for their performances. I do think Mikey Butler, though, I'd be going with him. He's, I think he's a winner for us. Mikey Butler, the breakout star of the year for Play on GAA's end of year awards. Now, a bit of a different take. Controversy of the year. I mean, right off the start, I'm going to go the Galway Armagh brawl. I think that one was right up there.
Yeah, I don't think you can beat that really, because it was such a high stakes game, so much significance obviously in it. Everyone was watching it already because it was the game of the year up until that point. Still is the game of the year, but you know, like as if there wasn't more drama already needed. And yeah, like it was a huge brawl. Like I think we talked about it before. Like RT were ready to go to an advertisement break, and then they just decided, oh wait, something's going on here. You know, like it's as if, you know, it's kind of funny. Everyone kind of downplays it and says, oh, it's terrible for the GAA and everything, which look, it definitely is, but you know, there is an element of hypocrisy as well, where we're actually nearly looking back at it now with some fondness. You know, and look, mate, like at the end of the day, no one got physically hurt, although there was the incident with the eye gouge and everything else. Yeah, like obviously that was way too far, and look, he's received his punishments, and rightly so, and I think that should be the end of that. But it definitely was a huge controversy, and I think for the GAA in particular, like they definitely do need to clamp down more on this stuff. Like I think it was a Sean Kelly who was sent off after this, and he had literally nothing to do with the.
Yeah, he literally was breaking it up.
Yeah. So I think they need to start paying a lot more attention to this. I know a lot of people give David Goff a lot of slack down the years and everything else, but like you seen him when he sent all them players off for Tyrone, like in the Tyrone Armagh game. That kind of stuff needs to happen, in my opinion, because otherwise these kinds of incidences will just keep taking place. And how many referees do you see that just bottle it, give one red one way, one red the other, and you're just picking out random players. I know it's hard for referees to see it all and everything. But in terms of the officials,
genuinely, he could have sent off 10 players there.
Yeah. But for the officials and umpires, like they need to kind of have a bit more of a look,
Yeah, I think you mentioned there the Armagh Tyrone one. Is that right up there as well? I mean, 5 red cards in one game.
Yeah, I think it is. Like, I think that one's probably nearly been forgotten about because of the Galway, the Galway Armagh one. And Armagh definitely involved in a few. They're involved in another one with Donegal as well.
Donegal, yeah.
Yeah, so they've been involved in a few. I think you'd look at that as I think the Armagh Galway one was just a bit more because the cameras were literally on it live. Everyone was watching the game, whereas people weren't watching. I don't think the Armagh Tyrone game in the league was on TV at the time, and cameras didn't pick up everything.
I think it was TG Carr were showing it or something, I think.
Yeah.
I remember watching it and being like, what is going on here? These lads are thumping lumps out of each other at the end. And the thing that I said as well was, I said, like, that brawl is really, really close to the stand. And it wouldn't surprise me if a brawl goes into the crowd eventually in a GAA match between players and fans. It really wouldn't surprise me. Which actually brings me on to the next GAA controversy, the brawl between Naomh Barogue and Ella Tabala in Parnell Park, which it actually did go into the crowd.
Yeah, and there's been loads of incidences of this, of referees up and down the country, for whatever reason, like wrongly have been assaulted and all sorts of stuff happening up and down the country. There was another video in a Roscommon club game, I think, where it just showed the referee on the ground, and we didn't get to see exactly what happened. I don't think we wanted to see, to be honest. So there's been all sorts of crazy stuff happening with referees this year, and I felt like that game between the teams you just mentioned in Parnell Park, like that was undoubtedly the tipping point. And I remember looking at that video and we were discussing it at the time, and you had some fans who were like nowhere near what was going on, and they just made themselves closer, wanted to get involved. There was some lady with a hurl who wanted to hit someone.
She smacked some fella on the back of the head 3 times with the hurl. Like, what?
Yeah, it's just mental. Like, and as we've said before, if you did this on a street, if me or you just went out with a hurl right now and decided just to hit someone over the head 3 times, like that's jail time, that's prison time. You can't get away with that. So but I have seen the GAA trying to clamp down a lot more. I think they're trying to bring in some rules to try and sort of eradicate this stuff, but it's so hard to police, like going into Parnell Park and everything else, like the resources and, up and down the country, they're just not there. So that was a really bad moment, I felt, for the GAA, because a lot of other people who wouldn't have been interested in GAA would have been turned off by that, so that's wasn't a good look, in my opinion.
But it would have turned away, particularly a lot of parents who might be thinking, whether or not to get their kids involved in GAA, and if they bring them down to Parnell Park and then there's full-grown men throwing leather at each other in the stands, it's not appealing, to put it that way. Moving completely to a different one, obviously the Hawkeye malfunction at Croke Park. Shane Walsh takes a free, goes over the bar, Hawkeye rules. That's gone wide. Madness. What was going on there?
Yeah, that was crazy as well. I don't know. It's one of them bizarre moments. Remember, we seen it in like soccer, to use the term, one year in the Premier League where like the goal line technology just didn't work. It's just weird. It's weird how this happens. Like, I don't know if they do they not double check before the game goes live? Is there not specific sort of, because obviously if you fly in an airplane, like everything has to be checked. The computers have to be checked, like everything has to be ran through. I know it's a completely different scenario, but at the same time, you think there would be, some sort of checks before the game went live. And I don't know, it just had a complete malfunction. I think, Walsh put the ball over the bar. Hawkeye said it was wide and even showed the ball going wide, but then the replays clearly showed it was going over the bar.
Yeah.
At least though with this one though, we kind of did get a solution. The point was awarded, so like in the end, it was kind of okay, but like,
But it wasn't, in my opinion, it wasn't as bad as when Limerick played Galway in the minor hurling final.
Yeah.
And Barry Nash scored a point and Hawkeye ruled that it had gone wide, and the ref went with Hawkeye and ruled that it had gone wide, and Limerick ended up losing that game by a point. I mean,
yeah,
like, imagine if that Galway Derry game had been close and it had come down to 1 point swing either way, then I think it would have been a lot more controversial if they had ruled it out.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I mean, thankfully enough, anyway, they awarded it. Like, I think the word on the street was that Pádraig Joyce and the Galway team weren't going to come out at the start of the second half. Not entirely sure how true that was, but you know, like, you could imagine what would have happened if they didn't come back out. Like, that would have been mental. You know,
Yeah,
it would have been a complete standoff. You're talking about like the Clare Offaly game from all them years ago all over again. But thankfully enough, anyway, common sense did prevail. The officials could clearly see what we could see, and they seen, right, there's been an error, there's been a mistake, award the point. And it should just be like that, like, you know.
Then moving again to a completely different field, Shane Walsh's transfer. We mentioned about him taking that free against Derry. Shane Walsh's transfer to Kilmacud Crokes. Big controversy about that. A lot of people saying that it shouldn't have gone through. It did go through. And I don't think I'm too controversial in saying that Shane Walsh has been the difference for Kilmacud Crokes in quite a lot of games.
Yeah, he definitely has. Like, I mean, I don't think it, like, I think that's just how it is, though. Like, at the same time, I don't really see this as, I know a lot of people have been kind of annoyed by this and the fact that such a high profile player from another county can end up playing for such a high profile club in another county, which he has no connections to. But at the same time, there are so many players up and down the country that work and live in a specific county, and they obviously want to play football for a club that's closest to them. Now, we don't know exactly where Shane Walsh lives or at and whether he's actually living in that sort of area. I presume he probably is, in fairness. You know, like, but there's so many players up and down the country. I think it would only be a huge controversy if Shane Walsh played for Dublin, you know, and maybe it would become more of a controversy if you start seeing other players from other counties that suddenly realise, that play for smaller clubs, that suddenly realise, oh, well, if I go and play for XYZ in the Dublin Championship or the Kerry Championship or the Cork Championship, maybe I've more of a chance of, yeah, do you know what I mean? And then there's also, like, you hear rumors sometimes about players maybe receiving, you know, money and funds and everything. And, you know, I think until those facts are proven true, we can't take that at face value. But, you know, obviously that is wrong. If something like that does happen, then it's all of a sudden, then there's a much bigger conversation that needs to be had. But the way I look at it is, he was living in Dublin, working in Dublin, wanted to play in the club championship. And look, Kilmacud Crokes are the biggest club in Dublin right now in terms of the resources that they have, and probably the best. They were the best Gaelic football team in the senior championship before they got Shane Walsh. So yeah, like, it's one of them where it's, you know, it's probably going to upset some people, but I think all in all, when you look at it, if he's working and living in Dublin, he should get a chance to play for a Dublin club, you know?
Yeah, I would agree, but then I'd say, like, you need to make sure that this doesn't get too far, because like, a lot of teams now have won Dublin club championships over the last 10 years with the aid of players from other counties who have made big contributions at big times. And make no mistake, in this Dublin final of 2022, Shane Walsh kicked crucial points against Na Fianna at crucial stages. When they really needed someone to lead them, Shane Walsh led them. And you could argue that maybe Na Fianna might have got over the line if Walsh wasn't there. That's how much of a difference he's made. You think over the last 10 years, Ballybowden St. Enda's, when they won the All-Ireland Club Championship, they had Paul Durkin in goal from Donegal. St. Vincent's have won championships when they've had Enda Varley from Mayo in their forward line, Brendan Egan from Sligo in their half-back line. Like, clubs in Dublin that have won championships have been aided by players from other counties. And you think as well, even like Oliver Plunkett's made it to a final in a year where they had Kieran McKeever playing, they had Garrett Nesty-Smith playing, they had Tomas Corrigan playing. Like, a lot of quality players have come to Dublin to play for Dublin clubs over the last 10 years. And I think it's bordering on being unfair in terms of towards the big successful clubs. The other one that I'm going to throw for you now, we touched on it briefly, the treatment of our referees, the treatment of referees, multiple incidents up and down the country, particularly that one that you talked about where the referee got assaulted and actually hospitalized. I think that is right up there for controversy of the year, if not absolute embarrassment of the year for the GAA.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think when the news stories are going around about that kind of thing, like it's definitely not what we want to see in the GAA. It's not what fans want to see, and it's definitely not what the general public want to see. Like those kind of things, those kind of incidents happening up and down the country. Like I think, there's a reputation sometimes that English football gets, for hooliganism and everything else. And, I think the League of Ireland sometimes gets a bad rap, sometimes unfairly, in fairness. But I think the last thing you want to see is the GAA sort of being put into that bracket, because the GAA has always been more seen as a family game, a community game, a game where it doesn't matter who you support, or you can sit anywhere in the stadium. Even there's plenty of times down the years where all the Kerry fans bombard Hill 16, and rightly so. Like it should be for everyone, in my opinion. But I think when you start seeing things like this happen more and more often, that then becomes a worry that segregation amongst fans and does become a thing. And then all of a sudden, certain, the panels have to be limited and everything, because the GAA is worried that, other managers and other people will get involved with referees. And I think the GAA just needs to come down with hard bans. I think they were saying something like a 52-week ban for anyone who does, sort of assault a referee or attack a referee. Like, I think they should just be kicked out of the game completely. Like that's what I think, But again,
my thing is that they don't even adhere to the bans. The amount of times you'll see a guy back at the game, oh no, I'm not Ben anymore, I'm Jack now, or something. Again, they just say that they're not the person that's banned. And who's going to stand at the park gate saying, oh, ID please, oh, you're banned actually 20 weeks ago, so you're not allowed to come in here. Like, it's nothing. Particularly to people that aren't GAA players as well, or aren't GAA fans. They go to a GAA match and they can do whatever they like, basically. They don't care. If they only get a GAA ban, to someone that's not a GAA fan, why would they care?
Yeah, and then like that, and that's the problem, isn't it? Like, I mean, how do you police it? Like, maybe in big games in Croke Park or whatever, like with buying tickets online, they might be able to. They might have some sort of system in place where they can see these things or whatever. But generally speaking, it's such a hard thing to police. Like going to Parnell Park, or I'm sure other club grounds, provincial grounds up and down the country. Like, it's not like you have to show ID going in or anything, and you shouldn't have to, because like it's just it's just a GAA game. But yeah, it's impossible to police, unfortunately. Like,
yeah. So then the last one that I want to throw up as my hat into the ring is the Henry Shefflin Brian Cody handshake. I mean, that was all over the news. Like, do you remember before the last few minutes of the Galway Kilkenny Leinster final, they just had a split screen showing Brian Cody and Henry Shefflin on the touchline? Were they not going to shake hands? I've never seen a handshake get so much coverage in my life.
Yeah, it was mad. Like, and like, it never would have been a thing if the first handshake hadn't have gone the way it had have gone. Like, I don't think anyone, like, going into the Galway Kilkenny game, I think people were interested seeing Henry Shefflin going up against Brian Cody, and the two, like, given the history that they've had, there would have been cameras on them, and obviously there were, but I don't think anyone envisaged the way it went. Like, I mean, it was strange, like, all right, because I know, like, when you look at the first handshake, you can clearly see Brian Cody, like, with a tight grip on Henry Shefflin, and you can see Henry Shefflin, like, he goes to pull away, but then he almost looks back as if, like, what are you doing? Like, let me go. Like, and you see Brian Cody mutter something as well. Like, I think we all would have loved to know what he would have said. It would have been interesting.
Wasn't nice.
Yeah. Like, and I think, like, personally, I think where it probably comes from is, like, I think Henry Shefflin has been lurking in the background for that Kilkenny job. I think it's, like, considering what he's done for Ballyhale, I think the reason why he goes to Galway in the end is because he's like, I'm not waiting around anymore for this. Like, and I think maybe that's probably where it's come from. But at the same time, given, like, Henry Shefflin had tragically lost his brother just a couple of weeks prior, like, I think there's more to sport. And I think, considering the relationship between them two, like, it was very disappointing, especially on Brian Cody. Like, I think he's a legend of the game, make no mistake about it. But, like, I think there's a time and place for that stuff, and it definitely shouldn't have been there. Like,
No, I agree with you. I think Brian Cody's reputation just completely saved him here on this. I think Cody, legend of the game, best manager that GAA has ever had, I believe, but he was a child here. Like he really was. He was a bad loser. I said it in a way of, I remember I made a video at the time and I compared Brian Cody to Alex Ferguson. And I said, look, he's GAA's equivalent to Alex Ferguson, a manager who's had dominance since he took the job many years ago. He's gone to war with many great players, and Henry Shefflin was the best player that he ever had. And I think with that handshake, I think he was trying to send a message of, we're not on the same side anymore. We're not on the same team now. And know that I always win. I think that I always win because when you were with me, we always won. And now you're against me. I think that was what he was trying to send to Shefflin. And I would, particularly given the circumstances and given the fact that like Galway had beaten them in the round robin game, it wasn't even like they'd beaten them in the Leinster final or the All-Ireland semi-final. I think Cody with his Kilkenny team, I remember there was one quote where he was asked, how does he get his players to want to die for Kilkenny? And he said, no, I get my players to kill for Kilkenny. Or he said something along those lines. So it's very clear that Kilkenny under Cody had us against the world and you bleed black and amber, basically. And I feel like Cody would have been very, very pissed off when Shefflin went to a direct rival to Kilkenny. Like, make no mistake, Eddie Brennan going to Laois, Michael Fennelly going to Offaly. They're not going to trouble Kilkenny. But Henry Shefflin going to Galway, they'll give a serious chance to Kilkenny. And they beating them in the round robin. I think that showed Cody that, like, look, we're right there with you. And I think that's why Cody, not only have you then gone against Kilkenny and maybe are going to stop Kilkenny winning silverware when, we have been in this together for years. Now you're against me. But I still think at that moment, Cody should have just shook his hand and said fair play and moved on and got ready for war in the Leinster final, which he did.
Yeah, like, and even the second handshake, like, you could see Henry Shefflin was definitely more prepared this time. He went over, like, but he was the one who walked over and, like, gave him a quick handshake. And you could see, like, with Shefflin's body language, he was like, I'm not getting roped into this time around. But you could see Cody again kind of say something again, like, and he was still a little bit bitter, like, and it probably is a case of he's, maybe Cody's probably looked at it and thought, like, like, you always see him talking about standards and talking about, you can tell he's extremely motivated and really, really into it. You'd have to be if you're managing Kilkenny for as long as he has. And it's probably a case of, probably does look at Shefflin, turning his back on him maybe and everything else. But yeah, like, I don't know. Like, it's interesting. And obviously in interviews after, like, both downplayed it straight away, and no one kind of, they were both asked about it, and nothing really was said from interviews or anything. So I suppose it's one of them things we'll never really know, probably, unless Cody writes a book or Shefflin writes a book at some point down the future.
Which will happen, by the way. Don't worry, we'll find out in about 5 years what was said. I'm going to go with the referee abuse. I'm going to go with that as my number one controversy. I think that because that's bad. Like, that's really bad. And if you're talking, like, scuffles have been in the GAA for as long as I can remember. And they've always been there. I mean, sure, when you were doing your research, you found an All-Ireland final from the 1890s between Dublin and Cork where it got abandoned due to fights. Like, fights have been there in the GAA for eternity. But the referees, that's not been there. So that's my pick.
Yeah, like, and the worry as well is, like, if something like that happens in a big game, like, we all seen the Loud Meath scenario, like, and obviously they've clamped, there's no pitch invasions now because of that, but the worry would be if something big happens in an All-Ireland semi-final, All-Ireland quarter-final, with everyone in the country watching, and it's on national TV and something like that happens, like, so that's why they need to clamp down on it, because, like, if something like that happened, then all of a sudden it becomes like a national incident in many ways,
So yeah, GAA controversy of the year is the referee assault at that club match a few months ago. Then we move on to story of the year. So an inspirational story of the year. The first one that I'd like to throw up is Luke Loughlin. Obviously been very vocal about the problems that he's had in his personal life. And then he's fought back. And this year, he's won a Tailteann Cup Westmeath and a Westmeath title with the Downs. Superb player. Absolutely inspirational story.
Yeah, like it's a real sort of rags to riches type story in many ways. And I think like we can all relate, like, and we can all get behind those kind of stories when we hear them. I think like as humans, we always cheer for the underdog and love hearing those things. I think that's why a lot of people, like I mentioned Tyson Fury in my other podcast earlier, or in the Dublin season preview earlier, and sort of his return, and that's kind of, although it's on a completely different scale, it's sort of similar in some respects. And I think as humans, like we can all get behind that. And yeah, as you said, like to come back in the way that he has, the season that he's had, winning a Tailteann Cup, playing in a Leinster Club final, winning the Downs, their first county title ever potentially, or in 20 odd years or something of that nature. So yeah, an extraordinary story from him.
Do we have any competitors off the top of your head for that award?
Yeah, no, like I think he definitely does win it. I mean, if you were to give shout outs, maybe you look at like Clare reaching an All-Ireland quarter final, beating Roscommon, like that was a fairly good story. Yeah, like London maybe in Division 4 winning a couple of games, considering, you know, the struggles that they've had obviously in the last couple of seasons. Although we won't want to admit it, Dublin being relegated is probably a bit of a story in itself, because considering how good that Dublin once were. Losing 5
We have
games.
an award for that later, don't worry. We're going to mention them.
But yeah, no, like I think Luke Loughlin's one is do you know, actually another one as well, the Sligo under-20s winning the title, considering the tragic death of Redo Murphy as well, and a lot of those lads would have known him quite well. You know, like for them to sort of do that and dedicate it for him, I thought was
that was a brilliant moment.
Very,
I think that one's actually going to take it for me. I think that I think that, like, considering everything that they've gone through, obviously with the tragic passing of Redo Murphy, I think I feel like, look, either of those two for me are winners there in my book. Like Luke Loughlin, obviously the battle that he had to get to where he's got to now, but you know, absolutely beautiful touch from Sligo as well to dedicate that victory to Red. I think I think they're both beautiful moments and both deserve a massive shout out. I'm happy to go with either of them. I probably would go with the Sligo one though, just about.
Yeah, and even another one as well. I think Kilrowan McDonough's, was it, who played or paid respects to Dylan Quirk. After the county final, or I think after the replay.
They held up the helmet. That was a beautiful moment. That was I think any moment like that where the GAA has just shown such a heart, such a family like that. At the end of the day, we are all on the same team. We are all one. I think those moments can't be underestimated in terms of their importance to the game. So yeah, I think those are all beautiful moments that we've seen this year, and I think they all deserve an award each, to be honest. Yeah, like Play on GAA gives them all an award each, but yeah, beautiful moments. Moving then to a letdown of the year. This is a team or a player that bombed it in 2022, did not turn up, did not play to the level that we thought that they would. The first one that I'd like to throw up is not actually Dublin, it's Waterford Hurlers. After the 2022 league, everyone was backing them to be Limerick's direct rival for Munster and the All-Ireland, and it just never materialised.
Yeah, like, and you could argue the Waterford one is worse than Dublin, because at least Dublin came back and made a bit of an attempt of the championship, whereas Waterford, you know, like they literally had one of their best starts to a year ever. Like their club, Ballygunner, won the All-Ireland, which has multiple players who play in the Waterford inter-county side. They then won the league as well, won it fairly convincingly. Like, you know, and when you looked at Waterford in the previous couple of seasons under Liam Cahill, you felt like, right, this is their moment now. Like they're gonna be Limerick's closest challengers. And yeah, like I think they won one game in the round robin, lost every other game, like miserably went out with a whimper in many ways. And yeah, it was very surprising. Obviously, Liam Cahill's since gone away. You know, so yeah, it was a very, very surprising one. So I probably would put Waterford ahead of Dublin's. I think Dublin going down to Division 2, although it was bad, I don't think it's that big of a deal, because I think Dublin probably will bounce back and get back up to Division 1. And I think there was a lot of circumstances there with injuries and they still had a decent enough championship, you know, in the end. So yeah, I'd probably shade Waterford there maybe as the letdown of the year.
And what about one more contender, Tyrone footballers in
Yeah,
2022, defending All Ireland champions, nowhere near the pace this year.
yeah, like very, very disappointing year. Like, and players opting out and not making themselves available. Like, it was strange, like, because they stayed up in the league in the end, beating Kerry and Mayo, and you thought, right, they've taken a bit of while. You know, obviously there's a bit of maybe celebrating from the All Ireland and everything else, but yeah, then the championship came around and they just went back to being poor again, like comfortably beaten by Derry and then fairly comfortably beaten by Armagh as well. Like, I know they beat Fermanagh in the opening game, but even that was far from convincing as well. So, yeah, you could probably put Tyrone in there, maybe even Meath as well, who I thought,
Meath, yeah.
you know, like possibly, I suppose Cork made a bit of a stab in the championship in the end, but considering all the young players that's been hyped up in Meath for the last couple of seasons, like to barely stay up in the end in Division 2, and then although Clare are a very good side, like they kind of beat them out of the gate in that qualifier, so maybe them. But again, it's a hard one with Meath because maybe that's just the level they're at, really. Like,
yeah, I'm gonna go with Waterford. I think Waterford this season, considering what they were supposed to do and what they ended up doing, yep, letdown of the year is the Waterford senior hurlers. Clutch moment of the year. So a moment that a player showed the absolute bottle, the absolute nerve that they have. The first one that I want to throw up, I mean, is the obvious Sean O'Shea's free kick against Dublin in that All-Ireland semi-final. But another one that I want to throw up is Rian O'Neill's free kick against Galway. Both incredible free kick takers. Both nailed such difficult kicks at such crucial moments.
Yeah, like I think Sean O'Shea's was a better point because it was further out. But I think Rian O'Neill's, because of the fact that if he had missed that, then the whistle would have blown and it would have been over. Whereas with Sean O'Shea, it would have went to extra time, and Kerry probably had the better squad, so they probably would have went on to win it. Obviously that's all if, buts, or maybes. But yeah, both equally hugely clutch moments. I mean, maybe the fact that Kerry went on to win the All Ireland in the end, you could kind of look back and think that point had so much significance to it. With the fact he put it over. I mean, we mentioned Harry Ruddle's goal earlier for Ballygunner. That's one. Drome Johnson for Kilcoo as well, with that late goal in that game. You know, so plenty of TJ Reid, and even Paddy McCormick, I think, who I mentioned earlier as well for Tipperary Miners.
But that's a clutch moment, big time as well.
Yeah,
there's a lot of moments there. You see, the Sean O'Shea one is the one that everyone will look towards because of the attention that the Kerry Dublin game got, and that was as good a free kick as I've ever seen. The Rian O'Neill one, though, the fact that Armagh were going out of the championship, they were going out, and Rian O'Neill nailed that free to keep them alive. That's pure bottle. Like, Sean O'Shea's one does have an element of, I'll just give it a lash. It doesn't matter. Just make sure it goes dead, and then we're going to extra time anyway. Whereas Rian O'Neill's, they were going out if he misses that. Yeah,
and another one I just thought of is Tony Kelly's point as well.
Oh my God, yeah.
Limerick. Yeah. That was.
I think that's the winner.
I think it could be, yeah. Like, I mean,
what a sideline!
He did it so comfortably as well. Like, it wasn't even like sometimes with these moments you think of he's going to take extra long with this because maybe there's a bit of nerves, you know. He'll put it, if he puts it over the bar, it might just scrape in, but he just did it like as if he was in his back garden. Like,
I think that's the winner for me. I think that is the clutch moment of the year. Tony Kelly sideline.
Yeah, I'd probably still lean towards Sean O'Shea. I just think the fact that Kerry went on to win the All Ireland, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe the viewers can decide.
Yeah,
it's a tough one though. See, you could argue a case for all of them. Like, I mean, you could say
they're all such clutch moments.
Yeah, like
they're all such clutch moments.
They all like led to All Irelands or big wins. Obviously, Clare still lost the Munster final, but it was still like a wonderful point to given the pressure. Like, so. Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard I think equally you could look at all of them and you could make a case for any one of them, really.
Yeah, true. I genuinely out of them. All right, we'll give it to Shawnee. We'll give it to Shawnee O'Shea. That free against Kerry, that free against Dublin. Sorry, fantastic kick. And given the pressure that is on this Kerry team to deliver, Shawnee O'Shea nailing that free was massive because that's Kerry's first victory over Dublin since 2009 in the championship. So,
Yeah.
I mean, cannot take that away from him there. Now switching it up to performance of the year. So this is an individual game where a player just went above and beyond what was expected of them and just absolutely led the way. I think the first one that I'm going to throw up is Meath ladies in that semi-final, Emma Duggan's performance, particularly in the last 10 minutes. Just clutch score after clutch score, dragging Meath, kicking and screaming to the final. She really led the way for them at times where the chips were down, really.
Yeah, like, I mean, it was an extraordinary performance. Like, and obviously against Galway as well. I remember she got a vital point in that game as well. Like, so she's been kind of key to Meath's success this year. Yeah, like individual performances. I mean, Conor Glasses versus Clare was very good, I felt. Damien Comer's performance versus Derry in the semi-finals, very, very good performance. Obviously, Shane Walsh in the final against Kerry, 9 points. I think he scored that day. It was really, really good. You could kind of pick out nearly any of David Clifford's games, really, like from club championships. I mean, I think there was one game with Fossa where he scored like 3-6 or 3-4 or something nuts like that. Yeah, like, and obviously that's in the junior championship, but it still can't be understated. Like, yeah, it's a tough one, really. I mean, Shane Walsh's performance versus Kerry was just so good. Like,
that was unbelievable.
Yeah, like, I mean, like, considering how good defensively Kerry had done all year, and the fact that, you know, he was able to just turn his man inside and out, score 9 points. And one of the points as well, I remember, was just unbelievable. Like, barely even of a wind-up as he kicked the ball. It was like he was just, you know, kicking the ball on the beach or something like that. It was just so comfortable for him. And yeah, so I'd probably go with that one, maybe.
Could this one be a shout, though? Killian McDade's performance against Armagh in the All-Ireland quarter-final. That was an outstanding performance. I mean, we're talking about clutch moments. Killian McDade's equaliser to send that game. You know, I think was it to extra time or was it to penalties where McDade? I think it was to penalties. McDade hits a boomer, you know, deep into the last minute.
And he got a goal in extra time.
Yeah, he got the goal in extra time. What a player! And like you talk about breakout star, McDade's performance in that quarterfinal, unbelievable.
Yeah, no, it was like, and I think in the Galway Armagh game, I think he scored 1-3 in total, and like 1-1 came in extra time or something. So yeah, no, he was. It was an unbelievable performance from him. Like, that day, he was exceptional. And yeah, obviously his performance as well. Like in the final, the semi-finals were very, very good. Trying to think of other players, maybe at club championships who've done very well.
Rod Hegarty in the All-Ireland final against Kilkenny.
Yeah, that's a good show, actually. Yeah, scored 2 goals, wasn't it, in the final?
Yeah, unbelievable. Like, you think about the first goal that he got, and he hit a few points in the first half where it was like, oh, just stop, will you? Like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, and he's probably the biggest clutch player in hurling because he actually had a fairly quiet year up until that game.
Yeah.
You know, but at the same time, he got a goal in the Munster final. So, like, it's interesting with him. He's a bit like, he's better than like Kevin McManaman, like in terms of if you're comparing, like, you know, if you get my gist there. But like in terms of moments, clutch moments, he reminds me a bit of that, where like he could be quiet for a couple of games, but then in a big game, he'll just show up out of nowhere. And obviously McManaman was sort of more coming off the bench as opposed to doing it from starting, but kind of definitely some similarities there. Like, so many big clutch goals, big moments that people will remember Hegarty for, you know, and that's like, at the end of the day, that's kind of what you want to be remembered for as well, you know?
No, I think he was outstanding. I think I'm kind of similar to you in the way that I think I'm going to lean towards Shane Walsh. I just think that performance against Kerry in that All-Ireland final was just completely off the charts. I think Emma Duggan, again, deserves a shout out. She was fantastic when the chips were down for Meath. And, you know, obviously them going on to win that All-Ireland, I think massively deserves a lot of credit goes to her. Yeah, I think Shane Walsh for me. That performance, you know, like considering he was leading the charge. I mean, we have to think back that day as well. Damien Comer didn't have his best game by any stretch of the imagination. Robert Finnerty wasn't at 100% either. And Shane Walsh just carried on taking the fight to Kerry and carried on leading Galway. And I don't think you can underestimate just how brilliant he was. Killian McDade and Emma Duggan are very, very, very close to taking it, though, I have to say. The last two awards I want to say is we're going to go Manager of the Year first. So obviously there's been Managers of the Year and individual ones, Player of the Year, and then we'll end it with the funny moment of the year. But Manager of the Year, who's your personal Manager of the Year from all the managers, whoever won? Which one impressed you the most?
Yeah, I think three main contenders. I think Rory Gallagher was the first name I thought of straight off the bat. Like, considering Derry hadn't won a game in the province in the Ulster Championship since 2015, coming into 2022, and then to beat Tyrone, Monaghan, and Donegal, like the three big hitters in Ulster down the years, like that's not like it's not like they've come through easily or anything like that. Like, and to be fair, they beat Monaghan and Tyrone convincingly. Like, it wasn't even too much. Like, they wiped the floor with them, really. And then against Donegal, even when the going got tough, like, they found an answer in extra time. And although it didn't go too well in that All-Ireland semi-finals and people have sort of criticised for them, like, to get Derry to an All-Ireland semi-final, like their first All-Ireland semi-final, I think since the 90s, or maybe actually they got to one,
2004.
I think, in 2004, yeah. So, extraordinary, really, like the way they just sort of came out of nowhere. And although Gallagher isn't everyone's cup of tea, maybe because of the style and because of sometimes how defensive it can be, you can't ignore that he's done an extraordinary job. And yeah, like I think out of that, I mean, we were criticising Brian Cody earlier, but I think to get Kilkenny to the All-Ireland final and to have them play as well as they did against Limerick, I think was definitely puts him in the conversation. And then Eamon Murray actually as well, the Meath Ladies football manager, to win back-to-back All-Irelands, considering where they were a couple of years ago, like, and obviously they didn't come through. They didn't win the Leinster title, so there'd been some jeopardation, and they needed a lot of late scores and everything through the championship. So, yeah, Eamon Murray, I think, deserves a shout as well.
Yeah, Brian Dowling as well, Kilkenny Camogie manager. I think he definitely deserves a shout. Another All Ireland there in the bag for the Kilkenny Camogie team. John Kiley, Limerick, another fantastic season there for Limerick, 3 in a row. Joined the pantheon of greats there, Declan Hannon as well. Like, what an achievement that is. I would definitely be looking at Eamon Murray though. I really would. Like, I mean, what a job he's done there with the Meath Ladies, taking them from where he has and then retiring, stepping off the podium. Yeah, I think Eamon Murray. I think I'm going to go with Eamon Murray. I think Jack O'Connor definitely deserves a shout with Kerry as well. Coming back in first year in the job, cleans up everything. Wins the league, Munster Championship and All-Ireland Championship. He literally couldn't have had a better year. But I think I am going to go with Eamon Murray to take this award.
Yeah, I think I'd go with that as well. I think like winning back-to-back All-Irelands, considering that this time they had a target on their back because they were the favourites going in now. Like, it wasn't, although second season syndrome can sometimes be a bit of a thing, like they completely lived up to the hype. They found a way to come through and obviously beat Kerry in the final as well. Two other shouts as well, though, like Porrick Joyce of Galway, very good year, and Com Collins of Clare getting to an All-Ireland quarter final. I think those two definitely deserve a mention as well.
Yeah, no doubt. Obviously, I think it's too hard to do a Player of the Year. I think it's too hard to say who deserves it across the board. I mean, like all the individual Player of the Year awards that we have given out here on Player and GAA, it's so hard to compare them and to say who was the best. But I think if we're realistically saying who's the best, we can't look past David Clifford and the scoring tallies that he's put up in 2022, just ridiculous.
Yeah, like, no, it's off the charts, really. It's kind of unheard of. Like, I did some research on it a couple of weeks ago, and I think he 20 goals and 145 points. I think he's since gone up to 169 now, and it's only been like 2 or 3 games. So, like, I mean, it's just mental. Like, he's done it like in every like way possible. Like, he did it in the Sigerson Cup. All right, he didn't win that, and he actually had a quiet enough final. But at the same time, again, he was exceptional for UL. I think they reached their first Sigerson Cup final in like 20 years or something of that nature. Then obviously, wins the league, wins Munster, wins the All-Ireland, All-Stars, Footballer of the Year, and scoring in so many big games and big moments. So, and he's just unbelievable as well when he gets the ball. Like, you you just can't knock the ball off him. He's almost too good. I think it's almost unfair on everyone on everyone else. But yeah, no, I think it's very, very hard to look past him, and I think he was a little bit unlucky not to win Sports Personality of the Year as well, because you're kind of looking at it and thinking, if there was ever a year for a GAA player, Gaelic footballer, to win it, I thought it would have been this year.
Yeah, I mean, well, he's definitely getting this award anyway. Player of the Year across the board is David Clifford. Massive shout out, of course, though, to the other people that won the individual awards of the year in their respective codes. But Clifford has just been too good. We're going to do a funny one and then finish on achievement of the year. The funny moment of the year. What moment has really kind of... Whether it be a bizarre one, whether it be a mess up, a screw up, or a team going down, don't say Dublin, but but in terms of like, what moment has been a bit bizarre that you've seen?
Yeah, like I think there's a few that spring to mind. I mean, the Kildare defeat, like it was so bad watching it, but there was times it was just like, what is going on here? Like I remember the Kildare goalkeeper was nearly playing as a midfielder. And like he kept giving the ball away, and like it was like he was just basically taking the mick at one stage. Like, I think he started to try dribble around players and everything, and it was just like comical watching it at times. And yet Dublin still lost the game. But that was kind of a funny moment. Like the Hawkeye moment kind of was funny in some ways as well, because it's like, how on earth can you get this wrong? Like, I mean, the Galway team are like, we're not going to come out at the start of the second half. It's kind of, that was kind of funny. And yeah, I don't know, anything you've thought of?
It's actually a difficult one. I'd say Pat Spillane dying a death in the commentary. If you haven't heard the Sligo New York commentary, it looks like Pat Spillane was out enjoying the New York nightlife the night before. It sounds like he was in bits in the commentary during the day before, and whoever put that mic right up to his mouth stitched him right up.
Yeah, I think so. I think someone should have been in his ear there. Someone should have said to him at halftime, like, just maybe pull the mic a little bit back there. we can hear you breathing a bit there.
Breathing very, very heavy.
Yeah. And there was times you were listening and you're like, I hope he's okay. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I think Pat Spillane as well, cursing on live air. I think that one was pretty good as well. What did he say? He said, "Pat, you bollocks" or something, and on RT are all like,
there was he was kind of, I feel like because it was his last year, and I felt like maybe he knew it was his last year. I think he wasn't taking any prisoners. He was like, well, if I'm going out, I might as well go out with a bang.
Go out swinging. Colin O'Rourke maybe saying that he's not going to take the Meath job, and then a week later he takes the Meath job.
Yeah, could be up there. All right, like definitely.
They must have been hiring. Here's my thing: they must have been hiring a shocker. Like they must have been hiring, bring back Banty or something. And like, Colin O'Rourke's like, no, I changed my mind. Actually, I'll do it.
Yeah. Like you wonder what was going on there, but like, yeah, like I think it was a funny one, all right. Like I think obviously he must have just, had a second guess or a second think about it.
I think Spillane's the winner here. I think whoever stitched up Pat Spillane by putting that mic right up into his mouth, I think that's the winner for me, because I remember even watching the highlights on the Sunday game and being like, what is up with the commentary? Like it's Pat Spillane's dying here. Like
and I was watching the game live and I was like, what? Yeah, this is kind of weird. Like even when he wasn't speaking, you'd kind of just hear
him breathing, like
a cough or like kind of like I don't know. It was
because I was watching the highlights and I had earphones in watching it, and it felt weird.
Yeah, and thankfully enough, like he's all is good there. Anyways, it probably just was a few drinks. Look, we've all been there. We've all been there. I've often done podcasts and stuff on here and had a few drinks the night before, and it can be a bit tricky, all right. You know what I mean? So
it's a tough one to navigate. But I stay far back from the mic when I've had that. Like,
I think you kind of have to kind of listen to your instincts there.
And then, of course, the last. So that actually is our funny moment of the year. Pat Spillane's commentary in the Sligo versus New York game. Our last award is Achievement of the Year. And the first one that I would like to throw forward for Achievement of the Year is Kilkerran Clonburns, back-to-back Ladies All-Ireland Club titles. I mean, considering that if you rewind the clock actually to this time last year, Kilkerran Clonberne had never won one. They won their first one at the start of 2022 in the 2021 club championship season, and they finish out the year by making it a back-to-back win. And I mean, just for that group of players, that's an incredible achievement.
Yeah, it is. Like, I mean, and it's similar again with the Meath ladies as well. Like, it's you know, it's kind of a similar enough story. You could probably say, obviously, Kilkerran Clonberne are a lot more dominant in Galway down the years. But yeah, considering they won back-to-back All-Irelands, having won it last year, I think they beat Crokes in the final, wasn't it, as well? Or beat them in the semis?
No, they beat Crokes in the semi-final. They beat Donaghmoyne in the final.
Yeah, so like you think of Kilmacud Crokes and like the resources, the sheer size of them.
That's actually one for story of the year. To Donaghmoyne player getting married and then coming in and playing that semi-final against Crokes. That was one hell of a performance.
Yeah, no, like it definitely was. Like, I mean, yeah, getting married and playing football on the same day. I mean, it's living the dream. But yeah, Kilkerran Clonberne winning back-to-back, Meath ladies winning back-to-back as well, and Limerick as well. Look, winning 3 in a row. Like, it's, you know, they're only one off the joint record. I think Kilkenny, Tip, and Cork are the only other teams who've ever won 4 in a row at senior level in hurling. So
I think they could well do 5. I really do.
Yeah, and like they're only like the record as well. I think they're only like 3 or 4 more games away from beating Kilkenny's unbeaten record, the most amount of games unbeaten in a championship. Crazy. And I think they're going to do that. You know what I mean? They just have to get through the Munster round robin without losing the game, which sometimes is actually where they might actually lose a game, because there might be a game there where they don't need to necessarily win. But yeah, like I think they probably will do that as well, which might be one of the achievements for next year.
Yeah, I think I'm tempted to go with Limerick. Kilkerran Clonberne is an achievement that I really, really like. I mean, 2 All-Ireland club championships in the same calendar year is pretty impressive. I don't know. I really don't know. Obviously Sarsfields as well, winning the Camogie Championship, defending that title, that deserves a shout out as well.
Yeah, Dunloy getting to an All-Ireland final as well.
Dunloy, that's a massive achievement for them. I don't know. I'm gonna let you decide. Limerick 3 in a row, or Kilkerran Clonberne back-to-back in 1 year.
Yeah. It's a very, very difficult one. I feel like I'll go with Kilkerran Clonberne just because Limerick probably get enough praise, enough credit as it is, whereas Kilkerran Clonberne probably don't quite get the credit that they deserve. So yeah, probably I'll go with that one.
Yeah, I'm happy to go with that. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. Let us know what your awards are, any personal awards as well. If you have them, do comment them underneath this with this video or Instagram post or TikTok, whichever one that you have watched on. And do let us know if you have any personal awards. I will respond to them and give my shout as to who I think should win that award. Aaron, it's been an absolute pleasure. This has been the Play on GAA End of Year Awards. Thank you so much for giving us your time today. Do take care. And until next year, guys, take care.